when I started at the end of the Def Jam era. So I would do places like, I'm from DC, so I started at Teddy's House of Comedy.
Wait, when you say Def Jam, you talking about Def Comedy Jam,
Def
Russell
Comedy
Simmons
Jam.
TV show from like the 80s, 90s?
90s through early 2000s.
Okay.
So I started comedy towards the very end of that era. And so there were certain clubs that you had to play, and so I started at Teddy's House of Comedy. Teddy Carpenter was and he still is, a Def Comedy Jam legend. So he opened up a club. That's where I cut my teeth. That's where I learned the grit that you need, because I was up there. At first I would try to talk about being straight, and the general stuff, weed. I got so high, one of the cockroaches was talking to me, whatever. And then I would, go into, I get a lot of and this and that, and the audience would be like, they would be looking at me like, man, whatever.
Suspect.
So then I started coming out, and again, like I said earlier, you have to stand your ground on those stages. So when you're up there and you start telling a story about how you got put out of your church for being gay, or breaking up with a boyfriend or something, and somebody in the back of the club yells, "Get your bitch ass off the stage." Y'all know how brothers are. "Get your bitch ass off the stage."
Right. Yeah.
And I fire back and say something, and then he says something back, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not gay, you suck my d," some like that. It's
Right.
then you've threatened their masculinity.
Yes.
If you look at the context of masculinity, a gay dude either beating your ass or roasting you in front of a club.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem roasting, again, I'm from DC. We roast people for fun. Where I'm from in Southeast, you had to know how to roast people. So roasting has never been a problem for me. I like being roasted. As long as it's funny, I like it. I get mad at you if it's not good. I'm gonna roast back. So when you fight fire with fire like that, and the club is rolling, because I'm roasting some dude in the back of the club, his girl's laughing at him, his dude's laughing, "Oh, you gonna let that faggy roast you like that?" And now he's mad. Now you got people waiting in the parking lot for you. And so I've had that happen on a couple of occasions. I did a show in Traverse City, Michigan. The Ku Klux Klan came out to the show.
Whoa.
Wow.
Right, I didn't even know they liked comedy. So, no, but they came to the show. Because I'm not only just up there talking about being gay, I'm black.
Yes.
So I'm in front of audiences talking about my real experiences being a black person. And then I come home to us and I talk about being gay. And a lot of times, because we still have things to deal with around sexuality as a community and a culture, they don't want to hear that. So that's why when I get up on that stage, I have to be twice as funny. I have to be so funny and relatable that they be like, "Hold up, I'm relating to this dude. This is my dude." And it got to a point where those same clubs where they would threaten to me up in the parking lot, those same clubs where they would throw chicken wings at me, they started walking me out to the bus stop and to the car because they didn't want anybody to bother me. So I had to earn my respect.
Yes.
And I really had to learn the craft. And that's one thing that has taught me that comedy, good comedy, that allows us to see each other, that's one of the best things you could have.
Medicine.
Absolutely.
So true.
That's
Absolutely.
powerful.
I've read a story that you got fired from a gig that
Several.
you showed up. Oh, several.
Several.
And one of them was a well-known comedian.
Oh, you talking about Jimmy Walker from Good Times?
Yes.
Jimmy Walker.
Y'all listen to this story. Yeah.
So, all right, so this is way back in the day. This is about 15 years ago. I had just started touring, and I was opening up for Cheryl Underwood, Adele Givens, Monique, people like that. Queens. And I'm meeting all these folk, and all of them are cool. And we grew up on Good Times.
Right.
So I had all the DVDs, and Jimmy Walker, JJ, Dynamite, that's black culture. That's a part of black culture. So when they said that he was coming to this club that I was working at, it was All Stars Comedy Club in Arlington, Virginia. He came there to do a weekend. They said, "You're gonna open for him." So I'm excited. I took the DVDs. I'm in the green room waiting for him, and he came and he was really nasty. I went up to shake his hand. I'm like, "Hey, I'm Sampson. I'm opening for you." What was this? What is a Sampson?
Oh.
And so I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And then he
Hurting
walked
inside.
out.
Wow.
And then his manager came back and handed me a white envelope, and she said, "I want to make sure you get this, and you're not working this weekend." I opened it up, it was a check, and I said, so I'm not working? She said, no, Mr. Walker does not want to work with you. He got up on stage, and he told the audience, he said, can you believe they were gonna let a fag open the show for me?
Wow.
That was traumatizing. You know, and it made me want to quit comedy at the time because things were just so hard. It's already like a challenging business to be in, but to experience so much rejection just for being who you are, for your point of view, like that was hard. And that night made me want to quit comedy.
What had you go on and
you for
not give
asking.
up?
Oh, I'm not a quitter. And I have my friends, like, I mean, you have to have friends around you who aren't yes people, who can, you know,
Right.
and who, you know, who will keep it real with you, but who also allow you, say the things you need to hear to allow you to keep believing in yourself. Not, you know, they don't just blow smoke up your ass. They like, you know, yeah, you need to do better here, here, and here, but you got this, you know, so.
I want to ask, so for the youngsters who feel like, maybe, you know, I think I'm funny or I want to be funny, do you think you can learn to be funny?
No. I think that, I'm gonna say this, I think that as a culture, black people are funny. If you really, see, black people, we don't go to therapy. Like, I went to therapy one time and I spoke about some of the issues that I was dealing with, and of course the issue of racism came up.
True.
He told me that if I just ignore the racism, it'll go away. That's what he told me. So when you go to, and I was with him, I'm like, you can't take a pill for it. No, but, so when you go to these places like doctor's offices and all those different places that should help you, and you leave out more up than you were before you got there, of course you're not gonna wanna go. So as far as funny, I think that if you really sit down and examine some of the things that we face as black people, that Jewish people have faced, that, you know, black gay people have dealt with. Like, you look at some of them transgender women, some of them are the funniest, you know. We are innately funny because of the things that we've had to go through. They're so outrageous and so inhumane that in order to make them make sense to ourselves, we have to twist them in a way to make it make sense, but it's so twisted that it becomes funny. To answer your question, you can't teach people how to be funny. I was supposed to answer that 20 minutes ago. You cannot teach people how to be funny. I think as a culture we're funny, and you know, we can sit around at the picnic and be funny, but I think the internet made people think, because of that LOL and them goddamn laugh emojis, think that they can be funny for real. So people are at home high and bored. So if you put on a purple wig and do a cartwheel out the window with some dish detergent in your mouth, yes, people are gonna like it and laugh at it.
Aaron, you've done that.
A little, very close to that, no joke. And yes, I almost went viral.
Got a lot of life.
I was huge.
I believe when he said it.
Right. You were thinking, you were like, oh.
So there's something wrong with his ass. So no, but seriously, it's there, and I understand that it's like, if you know, it's for entertainment, but the art, when people pay $20, $10, $15, $20, $25, $30, and you get on that stage, you better be funny.
Absolutely.
And that's something that is in you. That's not something that you can learn. You can learn maybe timing and stuff like that, but as far as being genuinely funny, that's something that you have.
So for a teenager right now who thinks that they are genuinely funny, what would you say to them? How do they get to where you are?
Study the craft. Study the craft, work hard, understand that it's a craft, so it's just like, some people can go party and carry on, and I've never been one of those people. When my friends are out partying and stuff, and I'm talking about, I study all the way back. I go back to Burt Williams, you know, he was one of the original black comedians, and that was before he was back in the 1800s. So Burt Williams was around in the middle of the Reconstruction era, the ending of slavery and all that stuff. They couldn't stand flat-footed up on a stage and tell jokes in front of white people. You had to do pantomime. You had to do all that stuff. So it was just, he couldn't even use words. Physically, he had to be so funny to work. And then you got on down to the Chitlin circuit. You had like Butterbeans and Susie, who did music. They made musical, because mind you, you still couldn't stand flat-footed on a stage because you weren't looked at as a human being. So they made songs, funny songs. Then people like Moms Mabley and Pigmeat Markham came along. you know, and Moms
Here
Mabley had to
comes the
dress up
judge.
like here comes the judge.
Yeah.
You know, Moms Mabley had to dress up like an old lady.
And I believe she was lesbian too.
She was a
Yeah, I've
lesbian, but she
heard
had to go
that.
back in the closet for her safety, all that stuff. But again, they were in Harlem doing the rent parties and all that. Gay people have always been around. The Harlem Renaissance, Langston Hughes, you know,
Yes.
Zora Neale Hurston, all those, they were gay.
Absolutely.
And they were the pioneers of black literature. And they were funny too.